Alright, hello and welcome to another Why Would You Use, and today we're going to be talking about another Zaw, which I affectionately like to call the Pharaoh Fang, and the reason for that is because this is going to be my kind of de facto weapon that I bring on Inaros to kill enemies and solve problems with Covert Lethality. Now, before we get into why this weapon is good, let's talk about some fun facts. So, now that Zaw daggers are in the game, it is not possible with any combination of parts to a Zaw to build a dagger that has less base damage than any previously released dagger. And that might sound absolutely insane, and it kind of is, honestly. On top of that, this weapon is faster than every single existing dagger in the game. It has 5 times the critical chance of all but one of the existing daggers in the game. And it has more status chance than all but 2 of the existing daggers in the game. And one of them is only beating it by 1% in the status department. So, suffice it to say that daggers have been having a rough go of it. They've had Covert Lethality for the longest time, and the Rack to Dark dagger can provide some energy. But none of them have ever had competent stats for just hitting dudes at like even sortie level. This changes that, being a very competent weapon for taking out fodder enemies in 1 or 2 hits, and additionally, being able to use Covert Lethality to take out big threats other melee weapons might have trouble with, such as very high level Nox Exami, which do not respond very well to anything except for finishers in the melee category, as getting headshots with a melee weapon can be a bit challenging in some cases, and the Nox hitbox is a little wonky for that. So, with that, this is an Akwin Vargeet Jai 2 Bala dagger. It's very good. It has very competitive stats in that it can do a lot of damage, and it is worth noting that this exact build is what I use for my Inaros, with of course some rotating elementals as necessary. I'll be using Radiation in this test. And the reason it uses Primed Fury instead of, say, Berserker or even Condition Overload, which will increase the per-hit damage of this weapon by a significant margin because Stinging Thorn is such an incredibly good stance that I really would advise you to get if you're going to use a dagger at all, because this also has, like, finisher combos in it and all kinds of stuff. Prime Fury also speeds up the animation of finishers, which is incredibly useful on any Warframe that is going to be using finishers excessively, such as maybe Ivara or, of course, Inaros, which, like I said, is the main Warframe that I'm going to be using this weapon with in general. With that, this clears the level 50 test with absolutely no issues whatsoever, and additionally, it is worth noting that because this is a Zaw, just like the previous Rapier Zaw that we showed, this can use Exodia Epidemic for a massive increase in its crowd control potential. I don't have that equipped right now, but of course you can do that if you feel like you need that, or any other Exodia, but realistically the ones from the event and then tentatively one other are the only ones that are worth using at all, and they're incredibly expensive, so I don't expect everybody to have those. With that, let's get into the test and kill some dudes. It is worth noting that this has a knockdown always on its slam attack, which is incredibly useful. So you can initiate fairly decently. Also, the stance has an amount of momentum, so that is very good. And you can see this weapon actually does good damage. Like, you can actually kill a guy with this dagger without doing a finisher, which is far and away the biggest advantage that this gains over all pre-existing daggers. Where did I kill him? Did he die in 1 hit? He might have. Oh, damn it. Didn't attack fast enough. Got knocked down. There we go. And there's one of the finishers in the combo. You just get that by holding forward on the finisher. Or holding forward on the combo, rather. And yeah. It kills dudes. That's the reason I built this dagger, is to have a dagger that I can use to hit a guy and they will die. This scales very well up into the low hundreds. Over level 150, it starts to have some problems, although that's mainly because there are just going to be so many enemies around, and then you want more range on a melee weapon to deal with that. It's not like the damage suffers that much, especially once you're at like a 3x combo. You're still going to be killing fodder enemies in like 1 or so hits. But yeah, it's a very good weapon. Like, if you need to be using a dagger, I wouldn't suggest anything other than this. But The main downside is just the downside of every single dagger that will probably ever be introduced to the game, which is the range isn't a lot. And whether or not that matters to you, I guess is like on a personal basis, really. But more range for a melee weapon means you're killing more dudes in general, and even though this damage is exceptional, if you don't have need for a dagger, there's not a ton of need for this weapon. That being said, a dagger is very useful, especially in a lot of cases where you have an enemy that doesn't really respond well to melee, like a Nox XMI, for example. And for those of you that have not seen like what Covert Lethality is for, this enemy that has an absolutely tremendous amount of EHP, as long as he doesn't shoot me once, because this is my test Excalibur. Here we go. Will die in one hit. So yeah, like if you need to solve a problem, Covert Lethality does that. And it does that on any dagger, but this dagger has the benefit of also just being generally useful. But yeah, I mulled over even doing this why would you use, just because it feels plain, I guess. It's just a dagger that has stats that are good enough where you'd actually use it for something besides Covert Lethality. I just don't know how valuable that is to you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys tomorrow.